Hey, what's going on everybody? Servo here. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to take a look at some potential release dates, or at least a time frame as to when they may drop, just so you have a general idea. And I got to say, this year, they're definitely doing something completely different. So the roadmap is actually looking a little bit smaller than 2024, but I still think 2025 is going to be packed full of Dreamlight Valley awesomeness. So if you guys do enjoy any of my content, please be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for me. I'd really appreciate it. We're almost at 50,000 subscribers. We're actually about to surpass the Dreamlight Valley official channel here on YouTube, and I think that would be pretty awesome. So thanks for helping me out, and let's jump right into it. All right, so before we take a look at the next year's worth of content, let's do a little recap of, last year and this year. So we ended up getting like the expansion and the free-to-play part with Jack Skellington on December 5th. We're getting it December 4th this year. That's just how it lined up with the Wednesdays. But then we ended up getting 4 updates after that, not including like the Timon and Pumbaa, but just the first part of the roadmap for 2024. We ended up getting a late winter one, an early spring, a late spring, and a summer of 2024. So this has 4 parts. The current roadmap that we just got released for next year is only 3 parts and only 2 parts down here. So we ended up getting one on December 5th for the expansion, and then we got a part 2 for the expansion in spring, and then one for summer. And so this is the current roadmap that we got. So we got one here on December 4th, and the first part of the expansion is actually November 20th. Now part 2 isn't until all the way until summer of 2025. This is actually concerning. There is a massive gap between these 2 updates, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. So then let's go to the free content. We have one that says early 2025. Then spring 2025, and then summer of 2025. So only 3 updates in between when the last one was actually 4. So if my memory is correct, we ended up getting this late winter update on February 28th. We ended up getting the early spring on May 1st, and then late spring June 26th. And then summer wasn't all the way until August 21st. So does that mean that this year's summer update is going to be all the way in August? And if that's the case, then November to August is an insane amount of time in between them. That's a massive gap. But summer also starts pretty early. It starts in like June 21st. So we could potentially see this update right here around June, maybe early July. If we take a look at the star paths, they're usually the length of like 49 days. So Lovely Monsters was 49. A Day at Disney was 42. Majesty and Magnolias was 49. The Tiana star path was about 42 days. And it's kind of been alternating back and forth. But from the first year of Dreamlight Valley, it was averaging about 50 days. So let's take a look. Let's apply that 50 days average to this current roadmap. Now here's where things can get a little concerning. So we have the 50 days here, right? So assuming we take 50 days for the star path and then add on an additional 2 weeks for just like prepping, for hyping up the next update, dropping teasers and stuff, then that means 50 days plus 2 weeks after December 4th, then this update would drop around February 5th. And then the spring one would be April 9th, and then the summer one would be about June 11th. The only issue with that is summer doesn't start here in the northern hemisphere until June 21st. So that definitely doesn't line up, right? So this is an entire 50 days and 2 more weeks on top of that. So like 64-ish days for each update, and it still doesn't bring us the summer. So this is why I'm saying that the roadmap, there's huge spaces in between them. So that could be, there's a lot of pros and cons for this. It could be great for a lot of players. It could be pretty disheartening for other players, So I think that these star paths are going to have to run a lot longer, which a lot of players were saying almost all of 2024 that they were getting overwhelmed with there being too many star paths and stuff. Personally, I didn't feel that. Now I understand. My life mainly revolves around Dreamlight Valley. I'm a content creator, but at the same time, I felt like each star path, I really only had to work on it for like an hour a day for maybe like what 6 or 7 rotations fully, right? Like a lot of the quests were pretty easy. But then again, I'm also a late game player. I have a lot of resources and stuff, so it did seem like it was easier for me to get a lot more things. But at the same time, the star paths aren't really revolving around what you already have in your inventory. It's mainly about tasks you have to go out and complete. So in my opinion, I didn't think it was that big of an issue. But I am curious overall how they're going to do this. Are they going to extend these star paths? Are there going to be larger gaps with no star path and just pretty much no content in between these updates? Or are they going to fill the gaps with maybe mini events? They could add in just some extra stuff. You know how like they do the Festival of Foolishness? Maybe they could do things like that. So I don't know. There's definitely a lot of gaps and there's just no way of knowing because Gameloft, they kind of are really sporadic when it comes to the length of star paths and just how they manage to do things and operate. And then again, this is assuming that these gaps take us to like the beginning of summer for these updates, because if this summer starts in June 21st and it was really tough for us to even get to summer, what if they don't release this until maybe July or August? Ah man, I don't know. So here's some pros and cons of this new roadmap and like the gaps in between them. So one thing is definitely reducing, players feeling overwhelmed. So players who have felt overwhelmed with like the frequent content updates, they now have a more manageable pace. So this is definitely something they're not going to have to stress as much if they do extend the star paths. This also will allow more dev time if they actually spend it on fixing bugs. So larger gaps will give the devs time to fix bugs, improve the game quality and just the overall experience, maybe fine-tuning each update before it actually comes out so it's not as buggy. But again, that's if they actually spend the time on that rather than just future content. Now this could also mean that there are bigger and better updates. Each release may be larger and more polished, giving us some more content and just again a better experience overall. But at the same time, what does bigger and like better updates really mean? Because if it's the same formula with doing like some friendship quests and things like that, that doesn't really seem like it's going to tie over the players that do end up doing stuff very quickly, and they could definitely feel some burnout from that. Now, like I said, this does leave some room for little like smaller events, mini events, and I really like those in-game ones, especially Memory Mania. I thought that one was really fun to do, even though there wasn't much to it. I don't know, just the whole vibe of it felt really exciting to me and I liked hunting down the memories. And then of course this definitely builds up excitement for each new content drop. Now there's also some cons to this. One of them being player disconnection. So these long gaps could cause players to lose track of the story, and that's my main fear for the expansion. So with us getting part 1 of this expansion, Storybook Vale, in November and not getting part 2 until at least the end of June, maybe July, maybe August, there could be some disconnection with the story there and make players really just not even care about the story at that point if they even remember what happened. There's also a risk of burnout, so fast players may find themselves waiting too long for new content. Again, if you're a player that likes to get on, get your star path done, do some quests, you're not really much of a casual player, you just like really are wanting to get in with the lore of the game, the story, get your quest done, then you're going to be left with weeks to months at a time in between these updates. And then of course, it's going to be really challenging for the devs to keep the community interested in the game if there is those longer gaps between. And it also puts on high pressure on the updates, the expansions, because if each update doesn't deliver after waiting a long period of time, that could also make some players leave the game. And lastly, that I could think of is a potential decline in game popularity. So long periods without significant updates may cause the game to lose momentum, making it harder to attract new players. Also making it, less trending over on social medias. A lot of players are not going to see it if, the game's just not being talked about on the internet. So this is just a few of my ideas. Now, I am in no way saying that I am not excited for the content or the update or anything like that. We're just taking a look at both sides of it. I think this could be a really great new formula for Dreamlight Valley, or it might not work out so well. We're just going to have to wait and see. But all I do know is I'm very excited to get all the new characters, to get Jasmine, Aladdin, Alice in Wonderland characters in the game. You know, Cheshire Cat is going to be absolutely incredible. The expansion is going to be so fun, especially the content we're about to get here in just a couple weeks. But I think it's going to be great. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you guys think? How do you feel about this roadmap? And do you think that you prefer it like this or the more consistent, maybe smaller updates that we had this year? So you really have to choose. Potentially like a larger updates, but not as frequent, or how we had it this year where it was almost like every month and a half to 2 months we had something new in the game. My opinion personally, obviously also as a content creator, I do like the more steady, frequent updates. I think it always gives us as a community something to talk about, something to look forward to. But I do understand the updates are pretty small, but I think they got us through this year pretty decently. And I'm curious how next year is going to go. So have a wonderful day. Let me know in the comment section below. And I'll see you guys in the next one.